Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Showcast, a series of podcast conversations from film festivals and film markets everywhere, presented by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. Roger Ebert once defined cinema as a machine that generates empathy. So in this new episode, I'll be bringing you conversations with filmmakers who presented two very different movies about human connection within the program of the 2023 Berlin International Film Festival. Vlad Petri will be speaking with us about his new film, Between Revolutions, and Babatunde Apalowo will be speaking with us about All the Colours of the World, Between Black and White. Vlad Petri is a Romanian filmmaker interested in political and social subjects, often mixing personal images with official archives. His films are often also at the border between documentary and fiction. Case in point, his new film, Between Revolutions, which was presented within the programme of the 2023 Berlinale and more specifically in its forum section. This is the story of the friendship between Zara and Maria, who meet at the University of Bucharest during the 1970s and whose lives are profoundly affected by the political turmoil of their respective countries of Romania and Iran. We'll get into it in more detail in our conversation with Vlad Petri. So fire up on Audio Teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. Joining me at this time is Vlad Petri. Lovely to see you again, Vlad.
Lovely to see you too again.
And we are at the Berlinale. We're going to be talking about your new film that you're screening here. It's called Between Revolutions. Vlad, first of all, we're here in Berlin. The film is premiered. How has the Berlin experience been so far?
I have to say that I was a little bit stressed with the premiere. After working so many years, you think a lot how the premiere will be, how the people will react. But the audience was really amazing. It was, and I think these things you don't see in too many places. But Berlin brings around the film so much buzz, and the people are so interested to see all these films in all these sections. And it was, there were so many people, and the reactions were amazing. So I'm really happy of what happened till now at the Berlinale.
And we should tell our listeners a bit about, Between Revolutions. Can you maybe introduce it to the listeners who are not familiar with it yet?
Yeah, Between Revolutions is about a story between two women, one from Romania, the other one from Iran, that they were colleagues and very, very good friends, intimate friends during the university years. And Zahra is going to Iran when the revolution happens there, and their relationship builds up out of this longing between them through the letters they send to each other. So we hear these two women voices, and we see archive materials from Romania and Iran between two of the most important revolutions of the 20th century. I think it's a film that mixes politics with poetry.
There's so much that I want to ask you, but first of all, I'd like to just, it'd be great for you to take us to the beginning of this project, because the concept itself, I think, is quite unique. It's quite original. When did it occur to you? I mean, how did it all begin? This bringing together of two parallel histories, so to say.
For quite some time, I'm interested into the Middle East, let's say, in a general way, but particularly in Iran. I've been traveling to Iran. I have many friends there, and I was so interested about the Iranian Revolution. I read a lot of books, and I met people. But the real starting point of this project was a discussion I had with my mother about her student years. She studied in another city to the one I lived when I was a child. She was doing her studies in medicine, like the character in my film. So Maria, the Romanian character, is inspired by my mother student years. And I also talked with her about foreign students coming to study in my country, and I was curious how they see the West for them, because they were coming from the East, and all these things, and borders. I was curious about perceptions about borders and politics. During communism, many students from non-aligned countries, Middle East, North Africa, came to Romania, and I was curious how the reactions to this, to the communism in Romania was. And starting from these discussions, she showed me photographs from the university years, and she told me stories And gradually I built up on this story, and I wanted to make this friendship that is almost like someone looking in the mirror. There are these two characters, and also two histories of two interesting countries, not Western-centered countries, one in Eastern Europe, the other in the Middle East, and so that's about.
But then how did the idea of using the letter forms, the interaction between these two women as a structure for the film?
For me, both these two countries have these dictatorial leaders, the Imam Khomeini in Iran and Ceausescu in Romania during communism. So these are these two paternal figures, and I looked at the propaganda because I was interested to see how normal people, ordinary people, were living in these two regimes. So I started watching a lot of browsing through archives. We had a historian in our team, Mihai Burcea, who searched the documents from the Securitate, from the secret police, and I searched for propaganda images, archive footage. So I was curious how these simple lives were and how they interact with the propaganda and with these two paternal figures. So that's why I was curious the lives of women like my mother, how would have been. And the idea of letters, it's in a way to contradict the official images. So these two women find space only in the text, only on these very personal levels through their words between them, and then the archives comes above them, like a building pushing on them, like a system pushing on them. So this was and it still is the main concept of the film.
And what are the letters based on?
They're based on documents. We found that the secret police, we searched documents about foreign students. There were so many interesting things. Iranian students fighting with Iraqi students in the dormitories during the war. Palestinian fighting with Israelis. There were so many things, and the secret police were following everybody, especially from other countries, because they thought they were going to destabilize the system. And there were fragments of letters and photographs, and we started with these fragments, but the letters are fictional and are written by one of the most talented contemporary female writers of Romania, Lavinia Braniște. She has amazing books centered on feminine characters, so she really knows how to write from the point of view of women. And this was the base, and the letters are also, they quote two feminist poets, Nina Kasian from Romania and Faruk Farrokhzad from Iran, so it's a bridge between two cultures and between these women.
Right, so there was a mix of different things that came together, and yes, quotations from poetry as well as, documents from archives, which, considering the fact that, like I said, it feels like this is a part of history that hasn't necessarily been told, at least not with this type of perspective, and I think you mentioned it there, it's not particularly a Western perspective, it's a Middle Eastern and Eastern European perspective. Did you have challenges finding these documents? Because I would think that maybe these documents wouldn't even have been kept or anything like that.
I didn't know at the beginning. It was a real challenge regarding what we're going to find, and especially the documents in Iran were really hard to get. This archive footage from Iran was a real challenge. And after so many searches, we found a very involved person that helped us, that cannot disclose its identity because of security and political reasons. And while we search archives, we changed the text and we adapted the things. And at the beginning, it was this comparison, and of course it's Romania and Iran, but we wanted to make the story more universal. So for me, it's more important their very close connection and these two women fighting in these hard times. And I think, and I hope the film will work for a broader audience, not only people interested into history, because it's history, but it's not the most important thing is their friendship. So we changed many things while we got images. Some images were very local and connected to history and political references from these countries, but we worked a lot on this regarding particular general aspects and how these archives will fit with the text.
And on the topic of archive also, I mean, one of the things that I love about this film, and I generally love about films that make such great use of archive footage, such creative use of archive footage, much in the same way that I asked you about whether you were certain that you could find documents about this particular period in time in history. I wanted to ask you, because I noticed that, we're not just getting scenes of war here. We're getting scenes of everything. We're getting scenes of popular culture, too, from TV and just everything. I mean, how do you kind of approach this type of work? How is this material sourced? And then do you gather it all together and see how it all fits? I mean, it fascinates me, this whole process.
I think there are more phases in the process. At the beginning, you search for a lot of things. It's the hardest part. It's like a sculpture. You have the block of marble, and you start, and then the more you get into the process, you know better for what to search at that point for the project. You have like just fewer keywords to search. At the beginning, I was at the Romanian National Archive, and I was looking through 35mm film stocks, which was an amazing experience because I discovered things that weren't digitalized yet. So I need from here to here to be copied, and then I saw them digitalized. And then out of this, we started editing, and I searched for more specific things. And I was looking, of course, for propaganda about women in both countries, but also we had great archives. I mean, even beside the film, there were so many great images that we couldn't keep because of structural things, because of the dramaturgy of the film, and it's always a pity, And but yeah, things develop a lot during the editing process compared to other films, to fiction, where you have everything, set at the beginning, or documentary when you follow a character every day, and then you most of the time you never know what happens. But here with the archives, it's quite amazing how many things change during the editing process. It can change everything. I mean, even if you go to the final steps, you can throw things around and change everything. You can do everything. It's like a puzzle, but it's not. It's like some samples that you can put, you can combine in each way.
It sounds like you enjoy it, though, even though it's really hard. It sounds like you enjoy it, and I know, and I'm curious about that because I've seen your other works, and sometimes it's just some of your films are you and a camera and in the middle of this hectic situation. So here we have something that's quite different. So do you like that, working with that diversity as a filmmaker, that you've opened up different worlds, different way of expressing yourself, and talking about the world?
I think some years ago I was very focused on documentary and on observational cinema and being part of the events. But after a while, now I'm very curious on the border between fiction and documentary. I also have a short fiction film that I will shoot, I think, by the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. So I'm moving a little bit also on fiction. I will have to do fiction and documentary both in the future. So, and I'm also, I try to get a little bit away from the events and look them from a wider perspective than being inside, like I was with Where Are You, Bucharest, where we met at Rotterdam in 2014. So here, a long time ago. So here it's a little bit different. But as you, regarding what you said, I really enjoyed the process, and I think it's one of the best approaches during the pandemic years, because I started the project during pandemic, where you couldn't shoot on the streets, you couldn't work with actors. It was really hard. So staying and watching archives, going to these dark rooms when the pandemic was around us, and the COVID was great. I was working a lot on this.
It does sound great. Like there's a romantic vision that I'm getting in my head of just locking yourself up in the presence of all these film stock and everything. We're going to have to wrap it up, but I have one final question, inspired by the fact that even earlier you talked about this film as being a film about friendship, really, like that's the heart of it. But the title says revolution. Is there something that these two words, these two concepts have in common in your head? I mean, is friendship really the real revolution, like when we think of revolution, or is it an alternative revolution?
I think friendship and a close relationship is even more important. I think revolution brings together a lot of emotions. That's why we use this title, and they bring hopes, they bring dreams, and sometimes disillusionment. But I think around all these notions, a friendship can a true friendship can fight times, can fight dictatorships, can go beyond any revolution. And the title is quite open. For me, Between Revolutions is not just between the anti-Shah Iranian 79 revolution and anti-Ceausescu 89 in Romania. It can be between the next revolution that will come in one of these countries or other countries. But I think that's the most important, that friendship, I think it travels beyond this, and it's a more stronger structure than the political structures led by incompetent leaders in the world.
Right. Well, with that, we're going to end it. We could go on talking, but we have to wrap it up at some point. Vlad, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Matt, and I was really happy to meet you here at the Berlinale. Thank you.
You're listening to the Showcast, and in the second conversation of our special episode focusing on films with stories of human connection, I'll be speaking with Babatunde Apalowo. The Nigerian filmmaker presented All the Colours of the World Are Between Black and White at the Panorama section of the Berlinale, making history by becoming only the second ever Nigerian feature film to receive an official premiere at the Berlinale. The film has been described as a sensual and politically important film about finding love where you least expect it, and tells the story of two men who become close in a society in which same-sex relations are considered taboo and liable for prosecution. Here is my conversation with the director. Hi Babatunde, lovely to meet you.
Hi Matt, I'm very, very glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, first of all. How is Berlin treating you, aside from the fact that the taxi driver drove you to the wrong place?
Berlin is a very lovely city. I love the city already. It's very postmodern, and it's very, very cultural. And of course, it's very, very young and vibrant and dynamic, So I've been having a really swell time here.
Yes. And not to mention, of course, that you're here presenting a film called All the Colours of the World Are Between Black and White. Now, it's very exciting because this is one of the top festivals of the world, and it's a historic event because I've been told that this is only the second Nigerian feature to ever be at the Berlinale. That's amazing. So how does that feel, first of all? Because it's a historic thing, I think.
Yeah, personally, it's great, and I also think for the Nigerian film industry as well, that's also very, very amazing, to be here right now to present a film. To present a film here at all, it's a blessing, I think, and now to be like the only second Nigerian film to ever feature there, it's just mind-blowing, so it's really, really great.
So just as an obligatory question, for the listeners who are not familiar with the film yet, would you like to maybe introduce it a little bit, tell us about its story, and just, so that we can begin to talk about it in more detail?
All right. All the Colours of the World Are Between Black and White is I like to call it a love film between two guys, in a city that they love, but doesn't really, really reciprocate their love, So it's about identity, is about two people finding themselves, or two people falling in love and not being able to really, really express themselves. And then also, I think it's also about Lagos as well, because I think Lagos is as much of a character in the film as any other characters. So yeah, that's pretty much what it's all about. It's about love, it's about identity, and it's about finding yourself, and trying to discover yourself, who you are as a person.
The lead character of this film, the man who really, whose torment in finding the identity, as you said, we follow, seems to be kind of a rebel for other reasons besides the one that we will talk about. He is kind. He always has, a kind word for people, a helping hand, whereas everything else is sort of, kind of crumbling around him. There's poverty, there's a lot of hostility and violence. Do you see this character in particular as sort of a renegade and almost an outcast, an exception in the society that you're portraying?
No, he's not. He's not at all. I think it's just like every other person in Lagos, for example. Lagos, even as much as the city is a very, very volatile city, is a very dangerous city, we have very good people, and Nigerians generally are actually really good people. They just want to help, and of course, the character is like an average Nigerian, and that's what you're going to get. Even though in the midst of chaos, in the midst of troubles, you still have people that are really, really genuinely kind, and they just want to help. And of course, and I think it also stems from the fact that specifically to Bambino, because of his history, he understands what it is to be an outcast. He understands what it is to not be loved. So it's a whole lot easier for him to take all those feelings and put it on the others, and of course do what he does, which is just being kind, just being a human being, even though he's not getting that same love or that same response back from the society.
Yeah. Which is why, is this why, I should ask, he finds it so difficult to, find his own identity? I remember a scene, for example, where he tries to Google, but he can't finish the sentence because it's just so difficult for him to just even search for that answer that he's looking for.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most beautiful things about the film is the fact that we all try to find ourselves, and again, when it comes to that space, when it comes to, the location where that film happens, it's almost very difficult for you to find yourself, because you see a lot of people trying to impute their own identities onto you and how they want you to do. For example, because you see the relationship between himself and the neighbor, so they always want him to be something, and I think regarding to that, the most important thing there is the fact that he has not accepted who he is. This is the very first time in his life that he's probably encountering this kind of emotion, this kind of feelings. So he doesn't understand it, and again, he does not want to accept that is who he is, because again, he's in the street and he sees how these guys are being treated, how they are outcasts. He feels like he's already an outcast, so now he has to have something else to eat, So I think that was very, very difficult for him. He can't just get himself to accept. I think that's what that scene is all about, his inability to accept who he is.
Does it have something to do with just prejudice for queer masculinities?
I think it's part of it, but I don't think that's the totality of it. I think it also has to do with him as a human being, and of course how the prejudice is there. Obviously, it's heavy, it's very, very obvious, and in a way, I think it influences it, but there's also the part of him that he can't deal with based on his history with his mother, and of course, so I think that's it. It's not just about the hostility or the threat of violence. I think it also has to do with himself and who he is, as a person.
But do you think that the fact that you do explore, whether even if it's just queer masculinities or just even a more vulnerable masculinity, do you think that this is an uncommon type of character to be found in Nigerian cinema in particular, or the films that we see from Nigeria? And do you expect this to be seen as uncomfortable by some people?
I hope it is uncomfortable for some people. I do really, really hope it is. I do not think I've seen a character like him in Nigerian films, and I think that's like one of the things that pushed me to really, really develop that character. The fact that we don't get to see those people. Most Nigerian films kind of like focus on specific group of people, the middle class, in Nigeria. But in reality, they are just very few. They're less than 10% of the entire population of Nigeria. So the people you will find mostly are the characters portrayed in this film. Specifically Bambino, the delivery guy that is just trying to make an ends meet in a world that is a little bit hostile to him, and of course his kind in a way. So yeah, I think it's. To answer your second question, I really hope people will get comfortable. Uncomfortable with it. I think that is only when we can actually have an honest discourse on the matter. Like I said yesterday, I feel like the most important thing right now to me, in a way, is to strike up conversations about this, because one of the things that I think were quite very, very damaging, for me as a person, that damaged my psyche, when I was trying to create the story, when I was researching it, is the casual homophobia in Nigeria. The fact that people can just easily lynch somebody and they can talk to you about it, because they feel like it's a normal thing. So nobody bats an eyelid. You're supposed to just accept it, So if seeing these characters, kind of like make them uncomfortable, and to start like a sort of discourse, I think I'll be glad for that.
It sounds like, I feel like a film like this can definitely help have those conversations. And yes, I like the way that you said you want this film to make some people uncomfortable, because especially when it's screened at a festival like this, it can only get a lot of attention, so that's interesting. But having said that, I talked about liking the pace of this film, to the rhythm. There are moments of quietness, I remember, a scene where the two main characters kind of share a meal, but there's not much talking done. So are you the type of filmmaker who believes in the power of silence when it comes to telling a story?
Yes. Yeah, I do believe in the power of silence, especially when you're making a film as a Nigerian, because one of the notable aspect of Nigerian films is the loudness. Do you understand? Is the dynamism, is the fact that it's very, very chaotic. They are chaotic in a way,
Overacted.
Do you understand? So, and one of the ways that I feel like we can actually really, really focus on the character in a way that we can actually allow people to see the moments which are quite very, very important, because those moments are actually where we get to understand them. We get to see the little things that they do, the way they look at each other, the way they move their hands, because those things are quite very, very important. With that silence, we can rein in on that. We can focus on that, and I hope we're able to do that.
Talking about the huge popularity of the Nigerian, let's say, commercial cinema. When I think of filmmakers such as yourself, but then there's other kind of few films that have been going around international film festivals for a while that represent a different type of making movies in Nigeria. Do you think that this is a way of thinking about making films that is growing as time is going on? And do you think that this is a reaction to, like we said, the other type of more commercial Nigerian films that are happening? What is inspiring this?
Yeah, really, I think so. Because, again, Nigeria is a very big country with different cultures and with different sensibilities, and again, films in a way kind of represent that, But I think at some point it got derailed, it became a sort of product, as opposed to it being, artistic or I don't want to use the word good films, right? But again, there's a growing number of young Nigerian film, and Nigerian filmmakers that are kind of like challenging the stereotypes and then saying, oh, we have voices, we have stories to tell. And because obviously they're inspired by Western culture, they're inspired by Western films and Asian cinema as well. And they are putting out a lot of work that in a way can travel internationally, but at the same time are authentic and really, really express the Nigerian, Nigerian story, and of course, and it's a beautiful thing to watch, the fact that you get to see Nigerian films screening globally. For example, see what happened with Afrobeat. That's like one of the Nigerian products I'm personally proud of. The fact that the world has caught on that, and I think that the new Nigerian filmmakers are capable of doing that as well. What Afrobeat has done, to the music world, which is taking it by the neck.
I love Afrobeat. I'm a big fan.
Oh, I'm a big fan myself.
Yes. So, and I'm sure that you're right, that it can also happen in cinema. And I thank you very much for joining us and talking with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Matt.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this very special episode of the Showcast, the series of podcast conversations from film festivals and film markets everywhere, which kind of focused on films presented at the 2023 Berlinale that told touching, powerful and moving stories about human connection. Look forward to more episodes of the Showcast from the 2023 Berlin International Film Festival and the European film market coming at you real soon. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out the other episodes of the series that have been previously uploaded. Till the next time, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.